Well, it is September 21st, 2010, and I am completely frustrated and basically giving up on Obama. Obama will still be an important political figure, but for me, he's no longer the leader of our movement. Get an idea of how far we've come. Today on Dylan Radigan's show, Robert Scheer, who is a journalist who worked for the LA Times for about 20 years, did a lot of investigative reporting going after things in the Reagan days that I read him, and he's a very solid guy, good writer, good investigative journalist. You may not agree with his views, but he digs a lot. He would be a natural supporter of a progressive president or liberal president like Obama, as is Cenk Uygur, the guy from the Young Turks who went on to work at MSNBC, particularly on the Dylan Radigan show. The vignette of this.
Does this guy know anything about what caused the financial collapse? Does he even know what a derivative is? I guess if he didn't think we needed derivatives reform, then you would be proud of that bill that passed. We're joined now by Robert Scheer, the author of The Great American Stick-Up, How Reagan Republicans and Clinton Democrats enriched Wall Street while mugging Main Street.
Obama in April 2008, when he was running against Hillary Clinton, gave a speech, which I have in my book, and he was very clear about the damage that had been done by the sweeping away of all New Deal regulations and the radical financial deregulation, including the derivatives. He seemed to understand it very well. He was listening to people like Stiglitz and Paul Volcker and others. But the real mystery of Obama, it was very clear that this mischief had occurred during the Clinton years. It was Clinton who fulfilled Ronald Reagan's fantasy of getting government off the... The big mystery is, why did he appoint the people who did it under Clinton, Summers, and Geithner to run?
All right. So you should watch it yourself, but the point that was made here is that Cenk Uygur and Robert Scheer are very pissed at Obama for having this Geithner, Summers, Rubin team that set the stage to demolish the economy through over-leveraging, and then rehired them. Here he says it right here. He was completely aware of all the wreckage this had caused, this deregulation, but he picked the same team again, and Scheer believes it was an act of betrayal. Now, think how far we've come since the election, when Obama had probably 2 million people that would have worked half-time for him for free out of coming that election, that euphoria, electing our first minority president, the best we have to offer in the meritocracy. So it's really sad that Obama appears to be what some would call a corporatist. So in the beginning of all this, because we had been out in the wilderness under Bush, meaning people who want to advance social policy in this country, who want to improve education or take initiatives that were on the liberal side, the left side, the Democrat side. These people under Clinton got a very restrained set of goals. He did welfare reform. He was very pro-business, actually, and very centrist in the way he managed affairs. And he wasn't able to get a lot of big legislation through because of the 2-year later swing back in the House with Newt Gingrich. And then before that we had Reagan, and none of the sort of progressive ideas were pursued under him. He removed the solar panels off the White House that Carter had installed. So basically, since the Carter administration, there hasn't been any kind of attempt to really improve the lot of the poor and the middle class, other than through conventional growth of private companies, really. So we had high hopes. We hadn't seen government policy in action, but I had thought or I didn't think, I prayed that Obama would first roll out an initiative about how he was going to clean up the waste and fraud in any given department that he decided to bring money and expand. But instead, there was really no real mention of optimization, and people don't trust government. So first, we launched the big programs, and all the big programs on the liberal side were severe compromises, and what they call it liberal. When I say the liberal side, I just don't want to mince words here. If you're a conservative, I don't want to hide anything. So yes, we're talking about the disaffection of the left for Obama, but if you're willing to accept that there are people on the left that are good people that can put their back to it just as well as people on the right, are we willing to work together? Because our leader has been wounded and taken off the field. Obama is not the man that we hoped he would be. And the evidence of that are these massive programs. And these massive programs basically say, okay, we have this giant out-of-control special interest system. So from the left's point of view, it might be the corporations. Some people on the right also mistrust giant outsourcing corporations, and they're also going to be looking at the teachers union. And I look at the teachers union as a traditional liberal, very frustrated because I have kids in public school. So we've got a set of special interests controlling Washington, D.C. You put $100 million into them, you can get $1 billion or $10 billion back out of Congress. That's really grotesque, and we all know what's going on. And now elections have been effectively deregulated. So the ability to have a people's message get to Washington with these conditions is virtually impossible. That's what we're discovering. Now, if Obama had chosen not to be a corporatist, not to get in bed with Morgan Stanley, not to pay AIG off either through ignorance or through really bad intent to pay them that money, it was secretly really going to all these big banks. From my point of view, I didn't understand the AIG bailout was really just a bailout for Morgan Stanley and their buddies hiding behind it. And I didn't understand the political implications that these guys all work for Morgan Sachs and Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers were both allowed to go down the tubes, but Morgan wasn't. So it's really infuriating, and the health care bill is the worst of both worlds. So what you got is you got all these big special interests. Their bureaucracies are getting bigger and bigger, but the distorted way they get treated in Washington now, because they have lobbyists. And then on top of that problem, Obama decides to expand these bureaucracies, which are corrupted by these relationships without reformation. So at this point you're going, wow. So then we get the bills, like the health care bill. There's really no attempt to control costs in this bill. It's might be an okay bill, but the people on the liberal side were very disappointed with it in many different ways. And for me, I was also disappointed because it didn't look bipartisan to me. I think you could have put in half current Republican ideas in and then ram it down their throats. But why not talk to them and share credit with them? And then if you really want to stick to your guns about certain things that Republicans aren't willing to do, at least you really welcome them. They were not really welcome. It was a square off from the beginning, and that's understandable, but it's disappointing. So we didn't get good. They could have gotten bipartisan input. They could have not been egotistical and arrogant about it and been humble. And they could have found Republicans who would have sat with them, like Colbert. They could have done it. And as far as I could tell, they didn't. So what we've seen is this centrist bloc emerging, and then we have the hope we had when Obama went to Washington, especially if we're going to spend money to jumpstart the economy, was that we could do some really cool stuff for the country. Now, in other words, if you're going to spend $10 billion through the federal government, you might be able to at least get a fair amount out of it. And then there's my own personal bitterness, which is that I filed stimulus applications to provide broadband throughout the whole Central Valley of California at $5 a user, I had about 1,000 pages of documents I sent to the